So my piece is called Wind Chime. It's a wind chime that I made from found or recycled objects. The top part of it is an owl that I used a laser cutter program to cut out of a piece of wood that I found. And then hanging down from it are these chimes that are made from metal that I sort of found around.
This owl that you had made, was it based on a drawing of yours, or did you find some pictures on the internet? Can you tell us about that?
So to make the owl, I looked up just a few general pictures of owls, then I sketched out my own owl, and then I scanned that into a computer and then converted it into a file that I could read with the laser cutter. Then I cut that out onto a piece of wood.
What was the most difficult thing about creating this piece?
The most difficult part was definitely tying the chimes to it. That was just such a pain to get all those knots correct and to make it balance as well.
As a student, what does art mean to you?
Art for me is sort of an escape from the rigorous academics. I'm in a lot of advanced classes, so going to an art class is just a nice break from very intense schoolwork.
The name of the piece is called Holocaust Shoes. The inspiration was on my class trip, we went to the Holocaust Museum in DC, and there was just all the shoes there that they would have to take off before they went into the concentration camps. So I just captured that picture.
Now, when you took this picture, can you tell us about the setting and maybe the magnitude of the images you were looking at?
When we were there was a lot of things that I could have taken like pictures of and entered into this, but this one was just, there was just so many shoes, and just like seeing something that they took from them, there was just so many, like the picture doesn't even show them all. There was just a lot of shoes, so I just took that one the most just to show how much was taken.
When you were working on this, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had?
Trying to make it so you can see it clearly, but then also keeping the lighting down as low as I could with making it able to see completely clear. So that was kind of difficult.
As a student, what does art mean to you?
Art means a lot. It just makes school more fun instead of having to sit at a desk all day and stuff like that. You get to do a lot more with your day and then develop skills.
Hi, my name is Junie B. Jones. The B stands for Beatrice, except I don't like Beatrice, I just like B. And that's all. Here is a story for you. It's called Once Upon a Time, My Grandpa named Frank Miller went to the store and bought me some mittens. Once upon a time, my grandpa named Frank Miller went to the store and bought me some mittens. They were made out of real black fur. I love real black fur. And the best part about them was that he didn't even buy them for me for any good reason. It wasn't even my birthday, or Christmas, or Valentine's Day, and the mittens weren't even on sale. He just bought them for me for no good reason. And that's the bestest reason I ever heard of. I remember when I first opened them, I was filled with such glee. Glee is when you jump and dance and sing and dance on top of the dining room table, and then your mom takes you off of the dining room table and puts you in timeout. Timeout kills the glee. But anyways, so all morning I wore my brand new black fur mittens, and then I even wore them to afternoon kindergarten. When I went to afternoon kindergarten, I went up to my bestest friend Grace, and I showed them, and I even showed a couple of strangers. I ran all around the recess, and I told everyone, look at my brand new mittens. My grandpa Frank Miller bought them for me for no good reason. No one seemed to pay attention. Hello, everyone. Do you see my gorgeous new mittens? Raise your hands. No one raised their hands. I ran around some more. Hello, everyone. Do you see my beautiful black fur new mittens? Still, no one answered. I went to my bestest friend Grace again. I couldn't create any interest. Then I saw my other bestest friend Lucille. Lucille, look at my brand new fur mittens. My family has lots of fur, Lucille told me. My mom has a fur coat, and my dad has a fur jacket, and my uncle has a fur hat, and my auntie has a brand new mink coat. but she can't wear it outside. Why, Lucille? Why can't she wear it outside? Because people will throw paint at her. Why will people throw paint at her? Because, Junie B. Jones, don't you know anything? People hate when nanas wear brand new mink coats made out of real fur. A huge feeling of relief came over me because I'm not a nana. And my mittens were not made of real fur. They were made out of fake fur. And that doesn't even count. So I heard the bell ring and I zoomed off to class. Because guess what? More people to show my mittens to, that's why. Thank you.
Can you tell me what materials you used to create Reaching Out?
I used stoneware clay, and I started out with a block of clay after it was wedged, and I started forming it to the contour of my own hand. I then, after I had the hand finished and carved, fired it once, and then used glaze to add the color, and like speckles on there were also in the glaze that added the special contrast and color.
Was there any specific assignment that you based this project on, and is that your hand?
Yes, that is my hand, but it was not based on any specific assignment. I'm an advanced student in our ceramics and printmaking class, so what that means is since I've done all of the assignments already, I'm allowed to use a little bit more artistic liberty and create stuff that I feel, as an artist, I feel like I could pursue and get better at and work on.
How does it make you feel when you see it finished?
It kind of excites me. I was able to use what I learned in that class and create something that could be used and that actually doesn't look bad, that actually looks good. It's encouraging.
What was probably the biggest challenge about doing this piece?
The biggest challenge would either be proportions or when you have to cut it in half to hollow it out. Proportions on a hand are very important, especially if you want to make it look like a realistic hand. There's lots of curves and contours and stuff like that, so that's just a difficult thing.
Now, was there any part of this that really turned out the way that you liked?
Yeah, I really liked how the the bones on the back of the hand turned out, because it almost looks realistic in the way that there's those bones and almost like the veins. I also really liked the fingers, not as much on the ends, but the fingers themselves, because it makes it almost look like it is reaching out of the wall.
Can you tell me what medium break in perspective is?
A digital photography piece in black and white.
Can you tell us what the biggest challenges with creating this piece was?
I had never done that kind of piece before where it kind of stops what is actually happening. And so when I was playing around with my camera, I did not even try to get this picture the way it was, but just like the time that I snapped the shot, it happened to be a perfectly clear picture of the water. And it was cool because you could see all the different drops of water and nothing was blurry.
What type of emotions come to you when you see this piece finished?
This piece completed makes me feel extremely happy because it turned out in a way that I never thought it would turn out, and it just exceeded my expectations.
The 2 remaining years of their marriage are where things got rocky. Tim dealt with severe pain in his back due to bulging discs, which resulted in his needing prescription pain medication from their family doctor. Knowing the Tim she had known for the past 8 years, Arlene never thought twice about her husband taking painkillers and handling them responsibly. It wasn't until Easter of 2014 that she noticed something was wrong. Come to find out, he had been abusing his pain medication, Arlene said. He had been taking too many, would run out, and was now having to go a week with no medication. Withdrawal. This was not the loving, compassionate husband and grandfather they knew. This was someone they had never seen before, someone they'd hoped to never have to see again. His addiction soon became something bigger than any of them had imagined. Slowly but surely, the person they once knew became a stranger living in their home. There was now a constant battle between him and the pills. Arlene strategically hid his pill bottles, hoping he wouldn't find them. Eventually, she bought a safe to keep them in, but once she fell asleep at night, he would steal the keys and take more. It was a daily fight between the 2 of them. He would take all the pills she would give him, beg for more, and explode when she told him he wasn't allowed any more until morning. This lasted until the morning Arlene had to leave for work on July 26, 2016. We didn't talk that morning because we had gotten in a fight the night before about the pills, said Arlene. I was mad at him, but I know I told him I loved him before I left. I always did. She went to work, paid close attention in all her meetings, and headed to the car at 6 p.m. I tried to call him as soon as I got to the car, but it went to voicemail, she said. I figured he was just sleeping, so I didn't think too much of it. Driving a steady 65 miles an hour down the highway, she headed home from Chicago. She broke the silence in the car by turning the radio to 720 WGN, her favorite talk radio station. Pulling in the driveway at 7:05, she shut off the car, gathered her purse and briefcase, and walked up the sidewalk to her porch. Stiff from the long car ride, she struggled to get up the stairs. She tried the doorknob. It was locked. Due to Tim's poor health, they never locked the door in case the paramedics needed to come inside, so the door shouldn't have been locked. Suspicious, she dug through her purse, found her keys, and unlocked it. She walked into the kitchen, set her things down on the counter, and called out his name. She turned her head, and from the kitchen, she saw Tim lying on the ground in front of their bed. I thought he had just fallen, so I ran to the bedroom, still calling his name, said Arlene. When she walked in her bedroom, she couldn't comprehend what she was seeing. There was blood everywhere, she said. Pools of blood next to his side of the bed, coming from his arm, all around him. She ran back into the kitchen, grabbed her phone, and called 911. My husband killed himself. My husband killed himself, she repeated to the dispatcher. She walked back into their bedroom, stepped over the pool of blood next to his side of the bed, and saw a bloody razor lying on his nightstand and his oxygen hose lying on the floor. In a panic, she ran back to the front door to make sure it was open for the paramedics.
As she looked down by the door, she noticed more blood in the carpet. He must have walked over to the door and locked it after he realized what he had done, she said. There was blood everywhere. In the front room, in the hallway, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, everywhere. You could hardly see the carpet in our bedroom, she said. Even the bottom of his feet were stained red. It looked like a scene from a horror movie. She called her son Craig, so frantic she misdialed his number twice. After finally punching in the correct numbers, she reached him. Craig, I think Tim is trying to commit suicide. I called 911, but I'm so scared. Please get here, she cried to her son. I'll get there as quickly as I can, he replied. She called her mother right after and told her the same. Finally, after what seemed an eternity, the paramedics arrived. They began working on him right there on her bedroom floor. After about 20 minutes had passed, they stabilized him enough to place him on the gurney and move him to the ambulance. After arriving at the hospital around 7:30, Arlene and her family members waited patiently while doctors continued to work on him for several more hours. The silent tension was finally broken by the clicking heels of the doctor entering the room. Mrs. Kelly, your husband wrote, "Do not resuscitate," on his chest, the doctor said. The announcement met stunned silence. He added that Tim's handwritten message had no legal standing if the family wished for them to continue working on him. "I want to save him," she replied. "I want to save my husband." And that's exactly what the doctors tried to do. They worked and worked and worked. And after 39 and a half hours of constant work being done on him, the doctors all gathered in his room with Arlene and the rest of the family that had arrived. They explained to them that there was nothing more they could do and suggested they remove life support. After receiving this news, Arlene asked the family to step out and let her have a few moments alone with him. The family slowly filtered out, pushing the gray curtains out of the way to bend down and kiss her on the forehead as she wept.
Can you tell us what you used to create the piece Debut?
It's a black and white drawing done in marker in the style of pointillism.
And can you tell us a little bit about the process you used to create this piece? Is this picture based on one you found on the internet, or is this a person you know?
It's actually an album cover by the artist Bjork. I've always had an interest in the album cover. I've always really liked the composition of it. So I started off with just a rough sketch, and then I just started adding dots, more in the hair, the darker hair. I'd add more dots, and then lighter amount of dots on the skin.
What was the most difficult part of creating this piece?
The hair for sure, because it's very, very dark hair, so it was difficult to add all of the dots while still differentiating the value depending when light was hitting the hair and when it was just darker.
What was the most rewarding thing about creating this piece?
I liked the end result of it when it actually looks like the person. It always is very gratifying.
Now, it's based on a Bjork album. Are you a fan of the artist, or are you really just like the picture?
I do like a few songs by her, but yeah, I am just really a fan of the album cover as a whole.
His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. He's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down, and the whole crowd goes so loud. He opens his mouth, but the words just won't come out, and he's choking now. And everybody's joking now. The clock's run out. Time's up. Over. You have to snap back to reality. Because there goes gravity. And the rabbit, well, he's just so mad, but he won't give up that easily. No. He won't. He knows the back city ropes, but that don't matter. Because he's dope and he knows that, and he's broke, and he's so stacked, but he knows that when he goes back to his mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again. Listen to this rhapsody, because he better go catch it before it passes him by. Because you better lose yourself to the music, the moments. Because you own it, and you better never let it go, because you only got one shot. So do not miss this chance. Go. Thank you.
I live here too. I ain't scared of you. I was walking past you to go into the house, and you're sitting on the steps drunk singing to yourself. I ain't gotta say excuse me to you. If you haven't noticed, you don't count around here no more. So why don't you just move out of my way and let me go inside the house, talk about what you did for me. You ain't never gave me nothing. Doing never did nothing but make me scared of you and make me afraid of you. Every time I would hear my name call out your mouth, I would just tremble and shiver. Every time I would hear your footsteps creaking in the house, I would just cry. And Mama, she tries. Oh, she tries. But she's scared of you too. I can't even fathom how she can't even look at you after what you did to her. To us, our family. What? You want to put me out? Put me out. You crazy old man. Talking about I have the devil in me. You want to put me out? Put me out! I'm not going nowhere. Sing.
The night is dark. A black veil settled over the city. The darkened sky gave warning of a storm, but it held out, waiting for a reason to drown the town in its power. You go on a stroll in the sleepy suburbs, enjoying the warm breeze tickling your skin. After looking up at the sky and contemplating going home, you notice a shadowed figure walking towards you, wearing a long cloak and charcoal gloves. A tinge of fear slices through your bones, but you immediately suppress it. You tell yourself you are being silly. People always tell you never to judge a book by its cover. Besides, you think, he is probably trying to escape the sounds of a shrieking newborn, just like me. After he walks past, you let out a quiet sigh of relief. Before you can continue on your way, however, he stops you and asks for your name. Nervous butterflies climb up your throat as you tell him. Interesting, he says, his left hand creeping towards his coat pocket. Never done one of those before. You should have run. It's too late. The man pulls out a revolver and points it at your abdomen. Frozen in fear, you watch the man pull the trigger 4 times. You feel warmness in your stomach as the blood begins to seep through your shirt. Then you hear the gun's ear-splitting crack. You aren't dead yet, but you will be soon. You collapse and hit the ground hard. The man looms over you and stares right into your eyes. Why are you doing this, you whimper, tears streaming down your face. He looks at you, then at his gun, and begins to laugh uncontrollably. With a smirk on his face, he says, I like to see the looks on their faces. You hear sirens in the distance. A spark of hope begins to kindle in your heart. It is smothered, however, in an instant. The man places his foot gingerly on your face and sets his full weight on your jaw. You hear a crack and a shot of pain rushes through your body. Blood and tears mix as it begins to pour. You don't remember where he went or what he looked like, but it doesn't matter. By the time the paramedics get there, you are dead.
I am at peace as I lay upon the sea, until you hit me with your wind, your ignorance, your darkness, and to that I am conceived. That is how the waves are created, my beginning.
Can you tell us what was the most difficult part about creating this piece?
It was definitely painting the acrylic on the plywood. I sort of went for a very textured feel, so I had to paint each fiber, sort of outlining it in different shades of gray, and that took up most of my time.
Where did you get the subject for this piece? Is it a person you know, or is it just a generic silhouette?
Yeah, it was a silhouette that I found. I think it was on Google Images. I didn't really have a specific person I wanted to represent. I sort of wanted to make it universal, so I just picked sort of a random subject.
Okay, now this thing is very big. Was it also time-consuming? How long did it take you to do it?
It took a couple months and a couple long hours at school after I should have left. But yeah, it was definitely worth the time I put into it, I think.
What sort of emotions does this piece bring to you when you see it?
For me, it sort of brings out a lot of anxiety just because of sort of the chaotic feel that it has to it and the suffocating depth that it brings. It's sort of what I wanted it to represent, so I'm glad that it came out that way.
Tell us too a little bit about the threads on there. Do they have any symbolism, and how hard was it to do that?
The symbolism is sort of I wanted it to represent sort of the suffocation of society that surrounds people. And yeah, the thread was sort of hard. I looped it around and then went around the back, stapled it, went back. They broke a couple times, so that was sort of a struggle. But yeah, it worked out in the end.
Now, as a student, what does art mean to you?
Art is sort of a way I feel like I can express myself, or I can talk about issues that aren't easy to talk about. So when people come and look at the piece, they're sort of thinking, what does this mean? And they think of their own interpretation of it, and that's really the fun part of art. Or usually, sometimes I don't do pieces that are sort of this deep. I usually do more fun and light things that can make people feel happy. So
the title of my artwork is The Seed of Anxiety. I mainly used markers and I used some color pencils.
Now, this piece is very big and very intricate. How long did it take you to complete this project?
It took me for the whole spring break, because I was sick at home and I was stuck at home by myself. So I really got nothing to do, so I spent the whole spring break just doing it. Yeah, I put a lot of time into it.
So there's lots of themes in this. Can you mention some of those themes and maybe give the audience a little idea of what some of the meanings might be?
So when I was creating the artwork, the only thing I was thinking about was that since it's the seed of anxiety, I'm going to throw some random stuff into the artwork and to confuse people. See, just random thoughts that ran into my head. And I mean, that is actually something that causes my anxiety, and it is something about myself. So I don't really have a theme for it. It's just everything that happens on Earth, and it's just some random stuff.
What was the most challenging part of this? What was the most difficult part to paint or draw?
It was the part where I put too much ink on one spot in order to mix all the marker and make it look more like watercolor instead of marker. But it kind of got stuck to the table, and it was really frustrating because I already spent 7 hours on it, and all of a sudden it's on the table and I can't take it off.
What is art to you as a student?
Art is actually a way to express myself, because there are a lot of thoughts that are in my head, but I can't show it in my normal life, because that doesn't really match up my personality and how I behave. So I just use art to show my real self and to show my real individual.
Look, Mr. Broadhurst. Mr. Broadhurst.
What you doing there?
I just love baseball.
Well, we all do.
Look, when we get to the ballpark, can you tell me the players' names so when I see them on the field I can know those fellas?
Well, I suppose if it's all right with everyone. You know, they give ball players these days very peculiar names.
Funny names, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I bet they're not funnier than my name.
And what's that?
Sebastian Dinwiddie.
Funnier than that?
Really? Funnier than
Mm-hmm. On our team, we have who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out.
I'm telling you who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know who's on third.
Look, are you the manager of the baseball team?
Yes.
You know the fellow's name?
Well, I should.
Well, then, who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who is on first?
You got a first baseman?
Certainly.
Who's playing first?
Right.
When they pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it. He's entitled to it, isn't he?
Who is?
Yes.
Who's what?
Yes.
Look, all I'm trying to ask you is, what's the name of the guy on first base?
No, what is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
He's on first.
I don't know.
He's on third. You're not talking about him?
How did we get on third?
Well, you mentioned mentioned his name?
If I mentioned his name, who did I say is playing third?
Who is playing first?
What's on first?
What's on second?
I don't know.
He's on third.
There I go back to third. Look, you got an outfield?
Certainly.
Left field.
What?
I don't know. I just thought I'd ask you.
I just thought I'd tell you.
Then go ahead and tell me. Who's playing left field?
Who is playing first?
Stay out of the infield. All I want to know is, what's the name of the guy in left field?
What's on second?
I don't know.
Third base.
Third base. Left fielder's name.
Why?
Because.
Oh, he's our center fielder.
You got a pitcher.
Certainly.
Pitcher's name.
Tomorrow.
You don't want to tell me today?
I'm telling you now.
Then go ahead and tell me. Who's pitching?
Tomorrow.
What time?
What time what?
What time tomorrow are you going to tell me who's pitching?
Now listen to me. Who is not pitching?
I'll break your neck. Just who's pitching?
But who's on first?
I don't know.
Third
base. You got a catcher.
Naturally.
Catcher's name.
Today.
And tomorrow's pitching.
Right.
That's it. All we've got is a couple of days on the team.
Now you got it.
You know, I'm a pretty good catcher myself.
So they tell me.
So I get behind the plate to do some catching. Tomorrow's pitching on the team and I'm catching. A guy gets up and bunts the ball. When he bunts the ball, I want to throw the guy out at first. So me, being a good catcher, I'm going to pick up the ball and throw the ball to who?
Now that's the first thing you've said right.
I don't even know what I'm talking
All you have to do is throw the ball to first base.
So who's got it?
Naturally.
Who has it?
Naturally.
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 So I pick up the ball and I throw it to naturally.
You throw it to first base.
So who's got it?
Naturally.
That's what I'm saying.
No, you ask me.
So I pick up the ball and I throw it to who?
Naturally.
You ask me.
I pick up the ball and throw it to who?
Naturally.
Now you got it.
Same as you. So I pick up the ball and I throw it to who? Whoever it is drops the ball and the runner runs to second. Who throws to what? What throws to I don't know. I don't know throws to tomorrow triple play. Another guy gets up and hits a long fly ball to because. Why? I don't know. He's on third and I don't care.
What did you say?
I said I don't care.
Oh, he's our center fielder.